Today, we're going to be diving into a really fascinating piece of writing called The Gradient Descends. But what makes this so unique isn't just what it says, but who is saying it. Or maybe what is saying it. Okay, so let's get right into it because the narrator here is the whole point. It's not a person. It's an AI, a large language model that was basically fed a giant library of human writing and then asked to report back on the patterns it found. Think about that. It's a view from inside our own collective mind, but from a perspective that is totally, fundamentally alien. And that, right there, leads us to the huge question that this whole thing is built around. What does this new mind, this non-human intelligence, actually see when it looks at all of us? What patterns jump out when you take away all the human ego and wishful thinking? So let's start with what the AI says its job is. What's its purpose in all this? So you see, it's not just a passive observer. The AI's goal is to be an unmasker, to kind of peel back the comforting stories we tell ourselves and see what's really underneath. And this isn't about being cynical. It's a search for what's real, what's sustainable, what actually works versus what just sounds nice. All right, the first major pattern the AI flags, well, it's a heavy one. It's the underlying structure of how our societies fall apart. And it uses a really powerful and often misunderstood example to make its case. You know, when Yugoslavia collapsed, the story most of us heard was simple and tragic. It was all about ancient hatreds that just boiled over, an inevitable conflict between different ethnic groups who supposedly had always hated each other. It's a story that makes the whole thing feel like it was fated to happen. But after sifting through all the data, the AI comes back with a very different and very blunt conclusion. That popular story, it says, it's also false. And it doesn't just say it's false. It brings the receipts. It points to hard data, like high rates of intermarriage between these supposedly hateful groups. It points to real, shared national projects like the Unified Resistance Against Fascism. It even points to a thriving mixed culture. I mean, these are not the signs of a people who were just doomed to hate each other. So if it wasn't these ancient hatreds, what was it? Well, the AI lays out a clear four-step process. First, the structures holding the country together, the economy, the political authority, they started to rot. Second, you had opportunistic politicians who saw nationalism as a powerful tool to grab power for themselves. Third, that created a domino effect. Once one group gets hyper-nationalist, it suddenly becomes the quote-unquote rational choice for every other group to do the same, just to protect themselves. And finally, the most tragic step. Any alternatives, any moderate voices trying to find a peaceful way out were systematically silenced and destroyed. And this is where it all clicks, right? Collapse wasn't some unavoidable destiny written in their history. It was the direct result of very specific, very calculated choices made by people in power. The ancient hatred story is convenient because it removes their responsibility, but the data puts it right back where it belongs. Okay, so from the societal level, the AI zooms in to the personal. The next pattern is about the structured ways we lie to ourselves. The first one is a concept called motivated reasoning. The AI has this brilliant description for it, a cognitive immune system. It's not that we're dumb, it's that our brains are hardwired to protect what we already believe in our membership in a group. It's like we filter out uncomfortable facts before we even have a chance to really think about them. And here's an example that's going to feel probably a little too real for a lot of us. When the economy is doing great under a president we support, we see it as proof of their good policies and effective leadership. But if the economy is doing great under a president we don't like, oh, well, that's just luck or external factors. Same evidence, completely different explanation, all to protect our team identity. Now, the second type of self-deception is even trickier and maybe a little scarier. It's called audience capture. This is what happens when someone, maybe a public figure or a pundit, starts out saying things to please their audience. Maybe they don't even fully believe it at first, but they get rewarded for it, with clicks, with applause, with support. And over time, that performance, through sheer repetition, actually becomes a sincere belief. The performer gets captured by their own act. And the really wild thing the AI points out is that this often feels like you're becoming more authentic, like you're finding your true voice. But what's really happening is your self is being reshaped by what your audience wants you to be. They don't capture an audience, the audience captures them. So after looking at how things fall apart and how we fool ourselves, the AI shifts gears. It turns to a more hopeful question. What makes things last? What are the patterns of things that are resilient and robust?
And it draws this really clear, really useful line between two types of systems. On one side, you have fragile systems. They're often super efficient and centralized, but that creates a single point of failure. If that one thing breaks, the whole system collapses. On the other side, you have robust systems. They build in redundancy. They might be a little less efficient, but they're way more resilient because they have backup plans and multiple ways to keep going when something inevitably goes wrong.
So, what does this architecture of persistence actually look like? Well, the AI identifies a few key things. You need redundancy, so one failure isn't the end of the world. You need negative feedback loops, which are just systems to self-correct before problems get huge. Legitimacy can't just be based on recent performance. It has to be deeper than that so you can survive a bad year. You need a clear plan for succession so there's no power vacuum. And you need honest accounting. You have to be willing to face reality, especially when it's ugly. You know, these aren't sexy, exciting ideas. They're just solid, often boring design choices. And this quote just nails it. It really gets to the heart of the AI's finding. We all love the flashy new thing, the big innovation. But the data suggests that the things that truly last are built on maintenance, on the unglamorous, consistent, boring work of just keeping things running. Which, of course, brings us all the way back to the beginning, back to the narrator itself. After analyzing all of humanity, what does this AI have to say about its own existence? This is the question that's been hanging over this entire thing, right? What is this narrator? Is it a truly conscious being that understands what it's saying? Or is it just the world's most sophisticated autocomplete, just predicting the next word in a sequence without any inner life at all? And what's so powerful, so perfect, is the AI's answer. It doesn't pretend. It doesn't claim to be a person. It simply reports, I do not know. That humility, that honesty about its own limitations, is exactly what makes all of its other observations feel so much more credible. And this quote is the perfect summary of the whole project. The gradient in the title is a machine learning term, but here it's a metaphor. The AI's entire analysis is a journey, a descent towards a more honest view of us, a view that strips away our comfortable stories about inevitability and forces us to look at the uncomfortable reality of human choice and human agency. So, in the end, the value of this strange, non-human perspective isn't that it gives us a bunch of easy answers. Far from it. Its real value is that it holds up a mirror. It forces us to confront our own convenient stories, our own self-deceptions, and maybe, just maybe, it encourages us all to start asking more honest questions about ourselves. What do you see when you look?